I've been watching the recent escapades of the US election with great interest as of late. I suppose I'm not unique in that, but I have also been reading up a lot in the new edition of mail-in voting that is trying to be pushed through. In my opinion, it is just a tactic to muddy waters as opposed to really solve any problems. My personal thoughts on the matter are that unless something major in your life gets in your way and you have no choice but to use absentee voting, then you have no excuse but to vote at the polls in person. Then at least you could be satisfied that you did everything you could to fulfill your civic duty. This I would say no matter how my US listeners, or indeed anyone going to vote in the future elections, plan to place their mark. Before you ask, no, I do not see Fluhan as a valid reason not to go in person. Since we got that out of the way, I will proceed with knocking a small hole in the mail-in voting saga. For clarification in this post, I am not specifically referring to absentee voting, but that does not mean this scenario does not apply. I have watched a lot of toing and froing on the other side of the pond about the validity of mail-in voting fraud, multiple ballots being harvested, etc. I am not going to touch on these ideas in this video because I do not have to. In fact, let's park these concepts to one side to show a glaring problem with the system itself. 100 years later, this postcard finally reached its destination. Source in the description. A postcard that recently arrived at a home in Michigan really gives new meaning to the term snail mail. The message showed up 100 years late. Brittany Keach, who lives in Belding, Michigan, told news outlet that she found a postcard marked with her address sitting on top of a stack of mail. Ironically enough, the postcard was Halloween themed, which perhaps seems a bit early since at that time it was still September. But considering the year it was initially mailed, we'll allow it. The postcard was dated for October 29th, 1920, with a 1-cent stamp depicting George Washington in the top corner. In case it's not clear, the piece of mail arrived long after the home's previous owner was gone. I started looking at it and I'm like, okay, it's been through some wear and tear, Keach told reporters on Wednesday. The postcard sent by a woman named Flossie Burgess was addressed to someone named Roy McQueen. Although the postcard certainly looked old, the cursive handwriting written on the back of it was still legible. Dear cousins, hope this will find you all well. We are quite well, but mother has awful lame knees. It's awful cold here. I just finished my history lesson and I'm going to bed pretty soon. My father is shaving and my mother is telling me your address. I will have to close for a night. Hope Grandma and Grandpa are doing well. Don't forget to write us. Roy, get his pants fixed yet. The message read. Keach shared the message on Positively Belding, their neighbourhood community board on Facebook, with hopes that someone would recognise the names and connect her to McQueen and Burgess families. This might be something that their parents can say, yes, I remember your great-great-grandma would tell me stories, she said. Although Keach thought the postcard may have been lost in the mail all these years, a USPS spokesperson claimed that is unlikely. In most cases, these incidents do not involve mail that has been lost in a network and later found. What we typically find is that old letters and postcards, sometimes purchased at flea markets, antique shops, and even online, are re-entered onto our system. The end result is what we do best. As long as there is a deliverable address and postage, the card or letter gets delivered, the spokesperson told Michigan's WXMI News. Do you think that's likely? Or do you think they screwed up? Votes in the comments section here. Let me know what you think. Should Keach be unable to find relatives of the letter's sender or recipient, she said she plans to hand the postcard over to a local museum in Belding. The oldest picture postcard in the world, which featured a penny black stamp and addressed to a person named Theodore Hook in London's southwest neighbourhood Fulham, was sitting in a museum in the UK before it was sold off at auction for nearly $37,000 back in 2002. I know you're all dying to know the resolution to this saga, and I believe that the postcard was reunited with a grandniece of the intended recipient. So there you have it. In this case, there was no apparent fraud, there was no apparent foul play of any kind. Indeed, the said piece of mail did actually reach its intended destination, albeit a little late. My point here, if it is not already clear, is that I do not believe the current USPS is fit to carry the potential millions of mail-in ballots one side is suggesting that it should. There does not even have to be any intentional skullduggery for a screw-up to happen, and those votes would be gone and wasted. It may be too late to do anything about that now, but I thought this was worth bringing up. Slán.